Hey guys, how are you? So, why do some people have trouble landing their very first coder job? I have found the main reason is because they have a difficult time finding jobs that are suitable to them. So, let me give you a couple of quick tips in this video. First of all, you got to be confident with your coding skills. So, I'm going to talk about the web stack, but this is applicable to any particular type of development you want to do. So number one, you got to have your basics down and you should be somewhat productive. Again, I've said it over and over again. One of the things you got to do once you've done your fundamentals, you've built your own first website, or if you're doing app development for iOS or Android, once you build your first app for yourself, then you set up that website. And then what you do is you go out there, whether you go to a freelance site or a local small business or your next door neighbor or whatever place you go to, you got to find some small job to do so you can develop some skills. Okay, so you got that done. You got some skills. You have a few things you've done for real that you can show in your resume, because in this field, in the software development game, it's truly one of the few pure meritocracies out there. What does that mean? Well, it's almost pure. By the merits of your ability, are you rewarded? That's the meritocracy. Unfortunately, in so many different fields, the meritocracy is bye-bye, a lot of connections, right? But in software, because the demand is so high, because the impact of the quality of the developer's work is so immediate, they can't afford to play the games that you might see in other industries. See, other industries, a lot of people advance because they have good connections and they have friends and they're friendly. Now, you have to have interpersonal skills and social skills in the development game, but real world, provable, productive skill sets are so important, because your work, the results of your work rather, are immediately noticed or impact the business. Whereas, I don't know, if you work in a huge bureaucracy, and I'm not picking on these people, it's just a reality situation. If you work in a huge bureaucracy, you can mess up for years and nobody will notice that you're messing up for years. Whereas with software, if you write crappy code, it's going to be noticeable right away. But this is a good thing, because this allows for people who put in the effort and who are consistent to rise very quickly. There is no other industry, as far as I know of, where you can, with such a short period of time, go from making nothing and knowing nothing to being a highly paid professional. The ROI, the return on investment for software development in all the different forms, is off the charts. And so why do some people have a hard time finding jobs? I find, first of all, they don't properly train. They do 2-3 tutorials on Udemy for $20 and they go, hey, why don't I have a job making 100 grand? Now you have to think about that. Do you think a $10 or $20 video course where you do a bunch of videos following along, not really learning how to code, but just following along as somebody builds something, you think that's going to make you a developer? No, most people run into tutorial hell because they are never really taught how to code. Tutorials are fine, but tutorials are kind of like the icing on the cake. A tutorial is what you do once you've done all your fundamentals. Then you do one little tutorial, maybe two, to get your head wrapped around the basic ideas, but then you got to jump into the ring. The analogy I make a lot of times is boxing. I used to box, I used to do a lot of martial arts, and there used to be a group of people I'd call the pad hitters. And the pad hitters are people who continuously just hit the pads, they do pad work, do heavy bag work, maybe some shadow boxing, they skip a lot of rope, but they never want to get into the ring. It's funny, one of the top trainers in the world, I was on a video call with him, I think it was last week. He's doing my Python course, and we were talking about this very briefly. I was talking about training coders, how we have to get them into the ring, just like, when I was boxing, and I'm nowhere near that level. But when I was boxing, learning how to box, I was boxing in the gym, and my teacher was at that level, my coach was. He'd get us in the ring as quickly as possible, because that's how you learn to fight. And that world famous coach, he said, yeah, same thing. You got to get the fighter in the ring as quickly as possible. So you have to get in the ring, get your hands dirty, with code. That's another great thing about the development game. Once you get past your fundamentals, and with me, people 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, then you're good. And I've had lots of people get jobs. Some people have trouble. I'll explain why people have trouble in a second. When you get your first job, the expectation is that you're not going to know everything right away. Nobody believes that. Unless you apply for a senior level developer job and you've never coded before professionally. That's a mistake. Anyway, so there's no other profession where you can get paid to learn. The first 2 to 3 years of you working is a huge amount of learning. I was just talking to another one of my mentees, somebody in my mentoring program, Shameless Self-Promotion. He's realizing that now. He was pretty good at what he did. He knew his way around code and so forth, but he got into a job, he took a job, and he says he's learning an incredible amount now. And that's the key. You got to get into work. Anyway, so why don't people land jobs? Why do they have trouble? Well, A, they're not trained properly a lot of times. They've done just a bunch of $10 tutorials. This is such a high value job, right? If you go to Indeed.com, depending on the survey, depending on the site, in the US at least, the average entry-level developer pay is in the high 80s, low 90,000s. Then the average developer is making over 100 grand, and then good developers making 150 grand plus, and the star developers can make $500,000. So, it's weird how they balk at spending, $50, $100, $1,000. It's crazy. It's like when I was learning this stuff back in the 90s, and I was writing a lot of code, I would spend $3,000 to $4,000 a year on tech books. $3,000 to $4,000 a year on tech books. There were no online courses at the time. I know that because I had one of the first online video courses, period, in 2002 or something. Yes, but I would spend that kind of money because I said, whatever, who cares if I spend 4 grand? I'm going to make at least 100 grand coding, in that year. So what's 4 grand? It's 4%. It's nothing. It's a nothing investment. Anyhow, so that's the first reason. They don't get the proper training. They don't flex their real coder muscles. That's another thing that they don't understand. To be a developer it's not like putting together a puzzle. It's more like painting. You have to have skill, right? You have to have skill. It's not karaoke. It's actually playing music, your own music. It's like jazz playing. That's what being a developer is. You have to flex those developer skills, which comes down to solving problems. And you use the various technologies you learn, programming languages, libraries, frameworks, no-code solutions, APIs. You use these tools to solve the problems. That's it. And now the key is not trying to learn everything. You just got to learn the concepts, and learn how it is done. So it's like if you were learning to drive a car, you don't have to drive every car that's ever been made. You just have to learn to drive a car. Once you know how to drive a car, you know how to drive any car, right? So you have skills, so now you have to go and look for those jobs, right? You got to go look for those jobs. You have to apply to jobs that align with your skill set. So if you're a C# .NET developer, don't apply for Java jobs. If you're an iOS developer, don't apply for Android jobs. You get the idea, Be sure that your skill sets match your target job. Another thing, when you're into this, what I tell people to do, when you're doing your fundamentals, at one point, it could be near the beginning or halfway through at the end of it, when you're doing your fundamentals, start looking around at job opportunities in your area to see what the demand is. You'll see that the demand will shift based on where you happen to live. So for example, I know in India, in Southeast Asia, PHP is very, 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 very important. I know, for example, in Germany, .NET C# is very important. In San Francisco, who knows? It depends. It depends on the area. So be sure to look up in your area what the demand is, because you're just going to be spinning your wheels, right? You don't want to find yourself studying up on a technology that looks cool to you, and then you go out there and you find no jobs. One thing I've seen several times is people say, I was told by the nerdlings on YouTube that you had to learn this was great, and then when I learned it, and then I go out there and there's no jobs. It's all PHP. So, Do a little research on the job market. Becoming an employee, starting a freelance business is a skill set in of itself. So you got to start learning that as well. You have to customize your resume for the job at hand as well. You know, if you're applying for a Python Django job, don't put the Python Django buried down 10, after 5 things. You put it right at the top, boom, Python Django, right? Self-confidence, that's an issue as well. You have to go in there with a certain level of confidence, not arrogance, but confidence. That means you don't go in there with 2-day-old beard, messed up hair. You don't go in there with a t-shirt that says F the world on it. Dress competently, present yourself competently, show up on time. And then when they ask you questions, so what do you think of this tech? Don't go, well, I'm not too sure. Say, you got to show some confidence. So it brings me to my last point. I find that a lot of people have problems finding work because of lack of confidence. They're scared of failure. Just throw it out there, man. You got to throw it out there, but you got to do it strategically. It's like fishing. If you want to catch big fish, you have to put out big bait. You're not going to catch big fish with a small bait. You're not going to catch deep water fish if you're fishing on the surface of the water, right? You got to go deep. Same thing with these jobs, right? You have to target jobs that align with your skills. You have to align your resume according to your skills and the job at hand. Don't waste your time going after jobs where you're not qualified. If you just came out of school, or my program, or anybody's program, don't apply for a senior dev job. That's ridiculous. What are you doing? It was like coming out of a boxing camp, say, okay, I'm going to go fight a pro fighter, first fight. You're crazy. You're going to get killed. So you don't want to do that either. And then you just create this negative feedback loop where you start applying to all these jobs you're not ready for, and you keep getting rejected, and it gets depressing. So to conclude, I hear from time and time again, people, I can't find a job, it's so difficult. I don't know your circumstances. I don't know what's going on with you. I don't know if you're badly trained. I don't know if you're just chasing after the wrong jobs. I don't know if you set up your resume properly. I don't know if you are just interviewing well. All these things. But remember, you have to prep and work at the whole process of landing that job. That's why I tell people, you want to just get any entry-level job. Any entry-level job. So the key is to just get your foot in the door. Any job coding, even low-level coding, doing WordPress, whatever, you want to get your foot in the door, because once you get your foot in the door, your skill sets will skyrocket, and then your value as a professional will skyrocket, which means all these doors are open. Once you get past that one hurdle, then the sky is the limit. You will have headhunters hitting you all the time, and you'll be able to pick and choose your jobs. But again, that first job, the hardest to get, you have to strategically go after it.